Well, guys, I have the original one and only Mel Carmine on the show today. And I'll tell you what, I really have enjoyed Mel. Mel has had me on his channel for a couple of times there and stuff like that. Met him down there in XRP Vegas. And in fact, when you go to the website and you see that big XRP Vegas, that is Mel Carmine right smack dab in the middle of that picture of all those influencers on stage. So I'll tell you what, Mel has been in this space for a long, long time. And he has got a deep level of connection with a lot of folks. And he himself has set up a major conference happening in June in Cape Canaveral, Florida. And it is the Quantum Summit. So guys, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to share my screen over here and pull this up. Mel's going to give us the lowdown of everything that's going to be coming up. And it is something big. So here's the screen right here, and it's the Quantum Summit 2024 taking place on June 8th and 9th at 11 Saturday and Sunday in Cape Canaveral, Florida. So guys, and by the way, Mal, you go right ahead. We'll probably switch back out of this screen into full screen mode, but you just give an introduction to what's going on here.
Absolutely. Thank you, David, for having me. I'm so honored. I mean, I watch your show all the time. My food guru, by the way, says hello. Ian Farrar has been following you for a long time. You're going to get to meet him in person with the Purium product. He's definitely wants to get you guys healthy and wealthy. Because listen, at the end of the day, we can all agree on one thing. Okay, you can't get out of bed and every joint in your body is hurting, and you can work $5 quadrillion. Who gives a crap?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it takes you 25 minutes to get out of bed and you're dealing with every joint in your body in pain, let's figure out how to get healthy while we become wealthy. And this way we can enjoy the fruits of our labor. It makes all the sense in the world. 107 is actually made the announcement. 107. Okay. If you take the zero out, you come out with number 17, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We all know what that means, don't we?
Yes. Yeah. And he's going to be down Tim Wilcott. His family invented the first camera back 7 generations ago. There's a 98.99999% chance he's coming down as a speaker as well.
Fantastic. Well, let me go over to the speakers page here, and you can kind of give a lowdown. I'm just going to click on over here, and there they are. So so we got a big lineup of folks that you've got in here. And like just before we got on air here, you and I were talking about XRP Lions, and this guy is brilliant. He was one of the candidates for the Nobel Peace Prize. That's who we're talking about right in there. And you got some really big names in there. It's Molly Elmore, stuff like that. Give it a little bit of a lowdown of the people that are coming here.
Sure, absolutely. Well, 107, like you said, is coming down, but we do have a lot of great people like the Lion. The Lion, in my opinion, he's like a forensic accountant on steroids, like an overdose of steroids, I should say, right? He is meticulous. And he's come up with some very big numbers. And off camera, I won't even mention some of the people that I've talked to off camera when the camera's not recording. And they said he's absolutely spot on. I hope he's spot on because his number happens to be a lot bigger than the rest of us. Okay.
Yeah.
So what we're predicting. So yes, he's coming down. And you can't argue with math. Math is math is like a pregnant woman. You're either pregnant or you ain't pregnant. You can't be almost pregnant, right?
Yeah. 2 plus 2 is always going to equal
always
4.
Be absolutely 100%. Yeah. So Molly Elmore, I just did a show with her. That's going to be airing hopefully here in the next couple of days. That's also going to be on my channel.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Publicizing the event. We have Mrs. Kerry Cassidy. Kerry Cassidy, she had one of the biggest UFO channels of all time. I mean, if you want to talk about some of the who's who of the who's who in the UFO world, some of her early interviews are unbelievable. She's going to be up on stage.
Fantastic.
Yeah. E. Smitty, who's actually creating a platform to compete with YouTube, is going to be there. Hopefully they make the announcement because I would love. See, YouTube has created a sucking sound. Okay. Someone is going to go and see what that sucking sound is and how we can suck some people out of there and put them on a platform where you cannot finagle the bagel, as I always like to say.
I know exactly what you mean.
People can get paid for every second of every video that someone consumes. Wouldn't that be nice for a change, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. No, this is an amazing lineup of great people. Hey, Patrick Riley, we've interviewed him on this channel. You got Versan, Black Swan Capitalist. We're big friends of Versan and Vandal. Amazing people. Jake Claver is going to be down there. He's another great guy. You got some amazing, and hey, yours truly
Yes,
is going to be
yes,
there. But I mean,
absolutely.
you have got some really great people in this space lined up, and I think it's going to be a fantastic event. Now, I'm just going to stop sharing the screen there. Talk about how people can, find out and maybe even get pre-booked, because I guess there's going to be a limited a number of space and availability. Is that right? How's that going to work?
Yeah, there's going to be 217 chairs. Don't ask me why, but that's the actual number we could squeeze in there,
Yep.
217.
Hmm.
So we do expect that once the seats go up for sale, which we don't anticipate it's going to take much longer, maybe like next week, middle of next week at the latest.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the actual physical seats. The virtual seats are going to go up for sale first. $17.76 gets you through the door, and you could tune in worldwide from
I love
anywhere
that.
in the world.
1776. Boom. That's
Yeah.
that is awesome, Mel. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Actually.
$17. We're not trying to get rich off of, the people,
No, but it's the
$17.76.
1776. That's what I'm
Yeah.
talking. Yeah, that I think is awesome.
It's a brilliant number, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
God forbid the XRP goes to like $20 on June 8th or June 9th. Oh
Hey,
my
we'll
God.
still be coming. We'll still be coming. We'll
Yeah,
just have a bigger
absolutely.
party. That's all we'll be doing there. So now,
Yeah.
hey, where is the actual venue and that type of stuff? And I guess there are a number of folks. Judy and I have already thought about it. Hey, we're going to not only come to the conference, we're going to make a little bit of a vacay out of the whole deal. And maybe you could give some people like the lay of the land who's never been down there, that kind of thing.
Sure, absolutely. We're right. You can't make this up, David. I'm sure. I'm glad you went there. We're located right next door, right adjacent to the Wizard of Oz Museum, which has
Oh,
to do
okay.
something with the monetary system, right?
Yeah, that's
There's another
right.
story that's
I,
tied to
I
that,
know
which
it.
you guys
Yeah.
might want to. Okay, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes,
We're the
sir.
only center that's on Center Street, 166 Center Street. We're on the second floor,
Yeah.
Suite 200.
Okay.
We're right across street from another building that God happens to like these numbers for some reason. 777. Well, the building across the
Woo.
street.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. The building across the street just happens to be, yeah. The building across the street just happens to be 7077. Wouldn't you know?
Oh, wouldn't you know? Yeah, that's wild. That is so wild. That is
Yeah.
fantastic. And of course, I mean, you're talking beautiful Florida in June. It's going to be a really, really great time. So now I know you got a lot of big things that are going to be happening. Of course, we're going to have you said something to me about having the place just wired for, vibrations of health and stuff like that. I'd like to hear a little bit more about that, what the people are thinking and what that really is, and kind of give that kind of lowdown as well.
Sure. The scalar wave technology. I mean, I think we have enough time to tell the story.
Yes, sir, you do.
It's been around
Absolutely.
for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Scalar wave technology has been around for quite some time,
Mhm.
except it was only being sold to the elite. And the elite kept it very hush hush because they don't like people like you and me. They don't want you and
Mhm.
me to be healthy. So they kept it very, very tight lipped.
Mhm.
These are people that can afford, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment in their home. And some
Yep,
of them
yep.
literally have bought two systems, which is like 48 units. I have a
Okay.
24 unit system that sits in a vortex.
Okay.
We sit in a
Okay.
vortex. There's a reason why NASA, never a straight answer, is right up the street from me.
Mhm. Mhm.
There's a vortex. There's a vortex that happens in Cape Canaveral twice a year,
Okay.
2 months out of the year, where
Yeah.
it's an luminescence. If you go to YouTube and punch in the luminescence and you go through the
Mhm.
waterways, even the water at the ocean, folks,
Mhm.
you put your foot in and you move your foot, the water in the ocean glows.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay.
I know Judy has
Yes.
been talking to
So
me
there's a
about, like since we've had rubber sole shoes and all that, how we've got away from being grounded to the earth and things like that. We actually sleep on top of a grounding pad that you plug into the
we do
wall,
too. We do
and
too.
it's a big deal, man. It's a big, big deal. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think
Yeah.
that's fantastic. And have you ever wondered how some of these people, they just seem to live on forever? Look at George Soros. The guy's, I don't know how old he is. You
Yeah.
see all the royalty, they're living into their 90s, even 100s. The rest of us are all dying off
We're
from
lucky if we get to
just, yeah,
75, right?
yeah, exactly. Right. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely something to be said about the way in which our bodies were designed. We're electrical units. We have an electrical system absolutely in our body. And look, the whole acupuncture thing and all the chakras and stuff like that. I mean, this is stuff that people have known about for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And,
So when you
all these natural remedies to heal us. And yet, for whatever reason, hey, those things are being literally, it's almost like the big push to dumb that down, make it that you're only going to go to these big pharmaceuticals. You're only going to trust the, whatever the big G has to say over here. And I'm not talking about that big G. I'm
right,
talking about,
exactly.
the one up in Washington, big G kind of thing.
Right.
If you're going to listen to these guys, and, then they push that narrative where people are not even allowed to think of the alternative things that could literally heal their bodies. And we're organic creatures. And why wouldn't the earth be right there to provide for us what we need? God planted us here, didn't he? So that's how I kind of look at it too.
Well, the entire planet is electric. You know that. That's
Yeah,
why you have
absolutely.
grounding, right?
Right.
My
Yes.
dog, when I leave to go to the center, or I got to go do something around here, or whatever,
Yep.
or I'm going to go
Yep.
shoot my gun at the range, which I'm about to
Hmm.
get a new gun, by the way. And
Yeah.
my dog keeps running back to my blanket because on my king size bed, I have a grounding blanket. I'm saying, why is this dog wanting to always go there?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
because
yeah,
of the
yeah, yeah.
grounding
Yeah,
blanket.
they know. Wow, Mel. That's yeah, and that's a real big tell. When we're here, that's funny because of course, living in the hail belt of Texas, when we first came down here, my wife said the hell belt, and the realtor, no, the hail belt. Hail. Like anyway,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
dog knows hours before. They know hours
Yes.
before a big hail's coming, right? Even before you
Yes.
even
Or
hear the
earthquake
first
or a
hear the
tornado.
first thunder. So yeah, animals are a big tell when you see that. And you're right. If they're jumping on the bed there because that's grounding there, the dog knows, hey, there's something there that's causing it to be drawn there. Not just your smell, but
Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
I
Yeah.
agree with that for sure.
So let
Now
me tell
what's
the
what
story for
yes,
the
yeah,
scalar wave technology, which is a
yes, please.
fascinating story. So
Yes.
for years, since 1996, this technology has been sold only up until recently, 2 years ago, when Jason Shirka came onto the scene and he blew this thing up. He dropped like an atomic bomb inside this whole thing and blew it up. And people like me got a wind of this particular one interview, the first interview with Dr. Sandra and Jason Shirka, which put her on a map in a huge, huge way. So
Mhm.
my friend Gilla Jed contacted me. She watched 20 minutes of it. She put it on pause. She says, Mel, stop everything. I mean, stop everything. And the actual video exists at stayingalive.com, alive with two eyes, right?
Okay, yeah. Mhm.
The actual two video that started this whole ball rolling. Fast forward 2 years later, there's 400 plus locations open worldwide, unheard of. I'm talking parabolic
Yeah,
growth.
that is big growth. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
400 locations. I'm one of 400 individually owned locations. Okay.
Yep.
So what happened was the rich people were keeping it completely hush hush. It was until Jason Shirka, who got approached by TLS, a group that works with extraterrestrials that happen to be here working alongside humans that have a 90-year lifespan. But these guys, some of these guys that work with TLS, I'm going to tell your audience for the first time here. I'm sure
Yep.
they're probably getting blown away. They're going to think the guy with the big chair is completely nuts. But some of these guys are 450 years old and they look as good as me and Dave, and some of them actually look better. Can you imagine?
Yeah, that's why.
And
Now,
they're
yeah,
working right here, right now. And
yeah, I
God put
think.
them here.
Well, hey, Methuselah lived till he was what, 996, at least the
Exactly my
Bible said.
point.
So I mean, obviously, we're not. Look, I always say to people, listen, we're probably going to spend more of our existence outside of these bodies than in them. But remember this: these bodies are the temple of the Holy Spirit. God wants us to live in wholeness and
Absolutely.
health, and of
Absolutely.
course, mind, body, and soul. The thing that I love to really contemplate a lot of times is how we're so triune in nature. Yes, we have a spirit for sure. And we have our soul, our mind, our will, and our emotions. And we have our body. Well, we know for a fact that when your soul isn't healthy, you got too much stress going on, you got this, hey, it doesn't affects the body. Well, when the
Sure.
body's not whole, it affects the soul just the same
Absolutely.
way. If you go through chronic pain, right, with someone's dealing with chronic pain, man, does that not affect their mind and their health of their emotions? They just get depressed and discouraged.
Yes,
And we
absolutely.
have to be in proper equilibrium. And both of those things obviously affects the spirit. So it works both ways, how the spirit affects the soul and the body, and how the body and the soul can affect the spirit.
Yeah.
And we're looking for being made whole. Now, really interesting how when Jesus was walking the earth, one of the questions he would throw out there is, will you be made whole? See, I
Yes.
think there's people that are somehow emotionally attached. You know, I understand how it can get there, but we get so used to the pain that that pain becomes part of who we are,
Right.
rather than something we experience, right?
Right.
And it
Right.
starts to affect how we interpret the world, how we interpret ourselves, how we interact
Exactly.
with one another. And God wants us to be 100% made whole. You know, I mean, the
Yes.
Bible tells us that when Jesus paid for it, like we just celebrated Easter, okay? Well, the Bible says by his stripes we are healed. God wants us to be healed. Sickness was never part of his original plan, obviously.
Yeah.
But
So
we got an enemy that came in and
this
did
is
that
why
to
he
him now.
recruited the
Yeah.
pizza guy.
There
This
you
is why
go.
God recruited the pizza guy, because the
Yeah.
doctors have been failing you miserably,
Yeah,
giving the
yeah.
little brown bottle that doesn't work. You
Yeah,
got
that's
side
right.
effects. I got skin rashes. I got
Yep.
diarrhea. I got suicidal thoughts,
Yep.
all of this stuff. And then he says, oh, yeah, you need these 3 other medications. The next thing you know what effing planet you're on.
No, I agree, Mel. That's one of the biggest, scariest things when you consider the side effects of some of these, and you'll hear them advertising. They're advertising the medication on TV. You know, you got a little rosacea going on or a little acne going on. Well,
Sure.
the cure makes the disease sound like a cakewalk in
Yeah,
comparison, and it's
exactly.
just
But there's no cure. It's
crazy.
just a band-aid.
It's just a
You're
band-aid.
masking the
Yeah,
symptoms.
that's right.
You're not
That's
curing
right.
anything, right?
No, you're
Our
not.
machines,
No.
I want to
Yeah.
stress this. Our machines are not medical devices. Our
Right.
machines are not medical devices. Our machines are not medical devices. They will not
Right.
cure you. Okay.
Right.
Our
Right. Right.
machines only provide an energy field that your
Right.
body understands or
Yep.
understands.
Yep.
And when your body understands that frequency, the
Mhm.
body is so magical because the guy upstairs
Yeah.
doesn't make any mistakes,
No, you're right on. Yep. Yep.
right? And your
Yep.
body starts to heal itself on its own. It's the body. It's like this, Dave.
Yep.
If you cut your finger today, right?
Yep.
You got a nice deep cut. You put a
Yep.
bandage on it, right? And
Yep.
who's healing the body? Obviously,
The
your
body,
body.
yeah, the body's doing it. Yeah.
Your
How the
body's
cell
doing it, right?
regeneration,
If you
this,
break
yep,
your
yep,
leg, yes, you got to go to the doctor. You got to
yep.
reset it
Get
in
it
a
set.
cast. But then for the
Sure.
next 6 months, who cures that leg? It is the body that cures the
Yeah.
body, right?
That's exactly it. Yep.
Same
No,
thing
you're right.
here, except when you are in this energy field, I hate to tell you,
Mhm.
a finger that's cut or a leg that's broken will heal
Mhm.
8 to 10 times faster.
Yeah,
Why?
it
Because of
just
the energy field.
accelerates what's already there, is really
Bingo.
what you're saying. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I receive that. I
What it
receive
does
that.
is it actually eliminates all the cells that can't be repaired,
Right, right,
and
right.
all the cells that can be repaired will teach other cells how to replicate
Right,
and
right,
duplicate
right.
in the billions.
Wow,
When
that's
that happens,
fantastic.
the body starts to
Yep.
prioritize and say, okay, what's wrong with Dave? Dave has got
Yep.
A, B, C, and D. If it
Yep.
says, okay, A is the worst, B is the worst, second worst, and it will do it in the order
Mhm.
based on the priority of what is most crucial in your body.
Right.
Again, the guy upstairs makes no mistakes.
I agree with that. I agree. And that's one of the reasons Judy and I never went for this thing right here.
Right.
Never, not ever, because it literally destroyed the mechanism that the body was absolutely designed with to fight those kind of things off, right? And it
Right.
literally changed the cellular structure. And now, of course, you're hearing about all these various lawsuits for these kind of injuries going down, right?
Right.
And with people that at first thought, oh yeah, they were behind it 100%, yet you'd see young guys on the field dropping, boom, dead, just like that.
So imagine you're going to be marinating in this technology.
Yeah, yeah,
Jason Shirka, who started this whole thing, who threw an atomic bomb,
yeah.
his aunt goes into one of these centers, had a
Mhm.
cystic fibrosis, a tumor in her uterus. Okay.
Okay.
Again,
Yeah.
the machines did not fix her. It was her
Right.
body that fixed the body, right?
Right.
In
Right. Right.
4 hours, four
Wow.
hours, not 40 hours, not
Yeah.
14 hours, 4 hours, that thing was completely reversed, gone.
Wow. Amen. That's
Caused
fantastic. That's awesome.
caused
That's
her to do
awesome.
what? Caused
Yeah.
her to do what? Go open up a center in New York. True story.
Yeah, no, I believe it. So
Okay.
now that's going to be going on. Like you're going to have these things running right in the facility.
While
And
you guys are
while
talking on
we're sitting there
stage.
and we're learning about XRP and all that it represents, and boom, where we're going with this financial system and how people are setting themselves up right now to literally be insulated from this major collapse that, as we know, it's genuinely being orchestrated. You cannot make this stuff up. The petrodollar, as it is right now, completely dead. We all know that. We know that countries around the world are not even receiving it anymore. You got all the BRICS countries out there. They are in the development of their own digital, CBDC backed by gold, as we know. And on
Yep.
top of that, you've got Saudi Arabia. I mean, come on, way back there, when I think Nixon sent Henry Kissinger in the 70s to hammer out that petrodollar deal, where oil was only going to be sold in US denominated transactions with the US dollar. And of course, that gave the US dollar that reserve currency status that it had held on to for so long. Well, that's gone now. Because I
Yep.
mean, look, you even had China go out there and they bought 1 million barrels of oil using the digital yuan. Boom, right there. And Saudi Arabia has made it very clear, along with Argentina and other major oil producing countries, that they are no longer interested in just selling their oil on the open market, in the world global market, in US dollars. They're not going to do it anymore. Well, if nothing is backing it up like that, and let's be honest, they have gone to major lengths to protect that regime, haven't they? Well, what ends up going to happen is this: a lot of countries are going to start returning all these US dollars, aren't they? Well, do you realize there's more $100 bills in Russia than there are right here in the good old US of A? Physical currency.
Absolutely.
And that's all going to come back. Well, when that comes back, they can't just burn it. They've already put
Yeah.
it out there, and the name of the game is inflate, 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 and they are just blowing it up, blowing it up, blowing it up until it really blows up. And at that point, you can be rest assured the same guys that burnt the house down are going to be the ones that show up with the hose, right? They're going to
Yeah,
be the ones,
exactly.
oh, we have an answer, da 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 da. Well, they've been working on this answer, as you and I know, for a long, long time. And it involves this whole digital economy. And you got Ripple out there, the backbone of the infrastructure, talking about the evolution of money. Now, have you ever heard any kind of a organization or a company that has been so interconnected as a startup like Ripple with XRP? In fact, the true valuation of XRP, I genuinely don't believe we scratched the surface with it. And so I'm
Absolutely
really looking
correct.
forward to these, the people that are going to be on that stage that really, and some of the names that you had on there, just phenomenal, who have spent countless thousands of hours, if not years, studying this and out there being able to kind of, hey, we're going to give it to you all in one shot. And I think if you guys can get a chance to get down there and get out to Cape Canaveral to go to this summit, I think it's going to be a big game changer for you. It will really, I'm telling people, Mel, you got to get out there and research it. And I believe it'll open your eyes in a way that maybe you have never had before. And I think having this summit that you're putting together with all of these people that are going to just be talking about how this is going to, and not just XRP, right? Just like we were talking about all the health benefits, it's going to be such a big eye opener that it could really change the trajectory of a lot of people's, future of how they're planning life. I mean, that's a fact.
And
We're
they're going to be
on.
doing it 2 days and marinating in this wonderful technology.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
people who have back pains are going to go back home and say, shit, my back pain's gone. Oh,
That's
my
right.
my
Yeah.
foot doesn't hurt anymore.
Yeah.
Man,
All
my
right.
neuropathy went down by 96%.
And
You
we have
understand what I'm
definitely,
saying?
yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to get those kind of, because our communities, they interact. A lot of people that are watching Mel Carmine, hey, I've coached people that have been watching you and stuff like that, and you have introduced them to a way of thinking and a monetary system most of them were not even thinking about before. And it's
Yeah.
set them
And
on a,
by the way, not to get off track, I wear these for protection because the cabal tries to kill you with every product they produce for you, including your computers. These are not because I'm trying to hide something. I got gorgeous
oh,
eyes. I'm
no,
a
man, you're a good
beautiful
looking guy.
looking
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You are
But I wear these
handsome.
for protection. So I know
Yeah.
that the comments are going to, oh, he's wearing glasses. He's got something to hide. He
Oh,
doesn't want
no,
to look at
no,
me in the
no, man.
eyes,
Oh,
you
come
know?
on. That's crazy. No,
But I'm going to
no,
tell you right
that's
now,
great.
the Quantum Summit
Yep.
1776.com
Yeah.
this is part one of part two and part three.
Yep.
Just like the New World odor, as I like to call it, because there won't be even
Yeah,
an
that's right.
odor
Yeah.
left when it's all this said and done.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right. Yeah.
When it's all said and done, we're going to do a part two, most likely in October sometime. And
Okay.
then fast forward another 3 months, we're going to do another one. You know why? Because we have to become equally or more so as relentless as they are.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You understand?
Yeah.
Because we have to educate people on not just XRP, how to, instead of
Mhm.
growing lawns, right? My good friend Jim Gale is going to be there, foodforestabundance.com.
Okay. Food forest abundance.
Foodforestabundance.com.
Okay.
Jim
Yeah.
Gale, I've known him for 11 years. He's
Mhm.
going to teach you how to get rid of your lawns and grow some food right on your
Hey,
lawn.
yeah. Hey, Judy's got gardening. She's loving it, loving it, loving it. So,
Clean food,
yep,
no
yep.
pesticides, no packaging. You don't have to worry about, oh my God, the gasoline went up. That means the price of, the goods are going to go up. No, because
Right,
the goods are grown where, right? So we have to go
right.
back to sort of like a modern day tribal thinking,
Yeah,
David.
yeah. No, I
And we
hear
have
you.
to, maybe some point, maybe we'll just, because we're going to have all of the wealth in the world,
Mhm.
because the wealth of the wicked, right? How's that saying
Stored up
goes?
for the righteous, the wealth of the wicked stored
Exactly. I'm
up for
glad
the
you were able
righteous.
to
Yeah.
finish that sentence
Yeah,
for
no
me.
worry. No, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
And
really an interesting way in which that happens. So I know one of the big issues that a lot of people are interested in is, of course, NESARA, GESARA, and
yes,
the release
yes,
of those kind of all the debt and stuff like that. Now, I have always kind of looked at NESARA, GESARA, in a biblical model way, because of course in the Bible it talked about the year of Jubilee. Now, the year of Jubilee, what really happened is once every like 50 years, they would have this year of Jubilee where all debts were completely erased. And so a little bit of our, like in the Western world and, our Judeo-Christian, background, you have bankruptcy legislation, right? Now, bankruptcy legislation, of course, everyone, oh, it's such a bad word, but the idea behind it was you get a reset. You can get a restart. And it comes from the philosophy of this whole year of Jubilee, where debts would be completely wiped out. Everything would start over. And you weren't, of course, back then, remember this too. God forbid people to charge usury, didn't he? When
yes,
you loan money, which is what we're dealing with today. Why? Because it creates slaves to a system. That's why.
yes,
And he was like, you shouldn't be out there enslaving your brother and sister, or your fellow man, as we are our brother's keeper kind of deal. And the way in which we deal with our finances with one another does matter. It matters in God's economy. It matters in the way in which he does things. Now, the idea of NESARA, GESARA, where that is going to come into fruition. The only, I guess, questions that sometimes that come up in my mind, and I liken this back to when Joseph, remember in the story of Egypt where the big famine came along, and Joseph was there and he had control over the granaries and all that. And when the famine really hit, because there were 7 years of plenty and then 7 years of famine, well, the people would come and they would buy grain from Egypt, and Joseph was overseeing that. Well, initially they'd pay their cash. Well, then they started, bringing their livestock. Well, when they didn't have any more livestock, they sold their land, and eventually they sold themselves. Well, under this current system, that's basically what it's been. They're like, oh, yeah, we'll help you. Oh, we'll give you this universal basic income, but there's always a payday. There's always something you are going to have to pay, which is totally contrary to God's way of debt forgiveness. Now, I think that subject is going to be on the table there, is it not? Are we going
oh,
to be
there are going
talking
to be
about
a
that?
lot of subjects, and because we have such an overwhelming amount of speakers, I'm going to have
Mhm.
to figure out who the psychology is good, like who you will mesh with after maybe you give your 20-minute, 30-minute speech, and put
Mhm.
you on a panel of 3 people on stage where you guys can exchange an incredible conversation. So
Mhm.
this is where the pizza man has to become a psychologist and figure out, okay, Dave would go good with Versan, let's put Molly Elmore in there. Okay, let's go,
Yeah, okay,
and
okay.
we'll start the conversation with maybe 3 topics, and then you guys will elaborate from there, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's where this whole thing is going. It's going to be very interesting from a standpoint that this is not just about, like I said, digital assets. Digital assets
Yeah,
is
yeah,
important. You
yeah.
need firepower. Okay.
Yep, yep,
If
yep.
there's any remnants of a New World Order, I'm going to make sure that we're going to be able to get rid of that New World Order, whatever remnants there is.
Right, right,
Okay.
right,
But
right.
this has happened once before in
Mhm.
Kuwait. You know that, right?
Mm,
This
mhm.
reevaluation. Have you heard the story about Kuwait?
I'm not sure. Please, yeah,
Yes.
elaborate that.
Okay. Well, this revaluation happened on a very small scale. It was sort of like a test market for
Mhm.
bigger things to come. The only difference is that the deplorables, you and I, David, are the deplorables, right?
Yeah, I know that,
got
right? We've all
got
heard
our little
that.
dirty paws around it. But you remember when the war happened with Iraq and
I
Kuwait,
remember.
where
Yep.
George
Mhm.
Bush, the inside story, guys, all right? I happen
Yeah.
to know a little bit about inside baseball. The
Mhm.
inside baseball is that we allowed that thing to happen. Well, what
Mhm.
happened was because the boys upstairs, who are very astute and they're
Mhm.
very educated, listen, are they evil? Yes. Do they want you and I out? Yes. Do they want
Mhm.
to poison us with everything under the rainbow? Yes, yes, yes,
Mhm.
yes. Right.
Mhm.
But the
Mhm.
reality is, they knew that once we allowed that war to take place, what was going to happen to the Kuwaiti dinar?
Mhm.
Devaluation.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Devaluation. It went to 0.00000 something. And people that went in there with $50,000, $100,000 that bought up all that Kuwaiti dinar became billionaires.
Wow. Wow. I did
That's a
not
true
know that.
story.
Did not know about that. Wow. No, I did not know about that. Did
The only
not.
difference is, Dave, it's happening again because this time the only problem they're having, that's why there's a Mexican standoff. Why do you think out of 28,000 companies, we
Mhm.
were the only one with the lawsuit, which is really, by the way, still not over?
Yeah, no, no,
We're
it's
still in
not
the Mexican
fully over,
standoff.
but it's pretty. I think from where we were, from whence we came to where we are, is a pretty phenomenal
Well, do
transition.
you
And
think they're going to get $20 billion out of Ripple? I doubt it.
no, they're not. They're not. I don't believe that either. I don't. When you think of the fine that they're asking for, remember with disgorgement, the way the law in which how it has to be applied, somebody has to be harmed. Well, the deal is this: most people right now in XRP, even the really early institutional buyers are in profit. Who's harmed? Number one. Number two, if you can't get the disgorgement part for people that are harmed, you don't get to get the interest that goes with it. See, they're going after 800 and some million for the harm that was caused for the institutional sales, right? Then they want 200 million for the interest that will go along with that.
Mhm.
And then they want another 800 and some million for the actual penalty part. The other
Yeah.
deal is this. Look, they cannot enforce the institutional sales that happened outside of the jurisdiction of the SEC in the United States. They cannot enforce that. So this whole thing where they're throwing out this massive number of 2 billion, come on, I don't think it's going to get anywhere near that. Now, remember in the library case. So the library case, they come out, SEC wants hundreds of millions of dollars in penalty. Now, they squeezed the library case so much that they put the company out of business because they couldn't afford to, they spent all they had fighting it. Well,
Well,
at the end of the day, when the penalty phase came down, do you know what the final amount that the penalty was? 111,000. That is a big difference from the multiple deca millions that the SEC was wanting for penalty. And so I genuinely do believe that we will see a significant reduction if there is one at all. And perhaps, look, this thing may very well be dragged out and may very well go to the Supreme Court, potentially. But if it does, I think the SEC, hands down, are done for. No way does owning XRP represent a security. There has to be some sort of contractual obligation, and none exists. Judge Annalisa Torres literally adjudicated this case on the very premise that the SEC wanted her to adjudicate it, the Howey test. Well, it did not meet the prongs of a Howey test, especially in the secondary sales. Now, with the institutional sales, there were some obligations that Ripple had agreed to, so there may have been something there. But like I said, it's only going to affect the ones in country. Well, secondary sales had
right.
absolutely nothing to do with it. XRP, and by the way, the SEC, Mel, as we know, is not even appealing the classification of XRP itself not being a security. That is not what they're going to appeal. What they're going after are the institutional sales agreements and contracts. And of course, yes, it's a massive money grab. Now, I've
It's
often,
always about the money, isn't it? Then let me tell
what
you,
are
that's
they?
why we need a NESARA and GESARA.
Yes, yeah,
95% of the government goes away,
yeah,
gets the hell out of our lives.
yeah.
Number one.
Well,
Number
smaller
two,
government.
the SEC is an illegal enterprise, and I can prove it. Anybody who wants to fact check me,
Mm-hmm.
go have at it, please. Okay.
Yeah.
The SEC, let's just say for argument's sake,
Mm-hmm.
that Ripple XRP has to pay a $2 billion fine, and they agree to pay that $2 billion fine. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to ask you first, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'm sure the answer that you're going to give me is probably the same one your audience is going to give me because most
Mm-hmm.
people don't know. Where does that money go when you pay the SEC that $2 billion fine? Do you know?
Well, I know where it's supposed to go. It's supposed to be distributed to those that have been harmed by the action, but that's not where it's going. That's for sure.
It's going to go in the pockets of Gary Gensler and all of his cronies. They're going to pay all the clerical and all the rent that they were handed a franchise.
Administration costs for sure.
They were handed a franchise. They were handed a franchise. They were handed a franchise by your illegal United States corporation government to run the SEC to screw you.
Well, they're certainly not out there protecting the retail investor, to be sure. I mean, when they get the, and I always like to bring this one up, when this lawsuit was being contemplated, you know, by the SEC, prior to that, we all know that in December, right in December of 2020, a major deal was happening in this ecosystem. It was the Flare snapshot. How many people, my word, were FOMOing into XRP to be participants of that Flare snapshot? Because, of course, they were going to get the airdrop of the Flare tokens, 1-to-1 ratios, depending on how much XRP they hold. Originally, that was the plan. That's what they were going to get. So people were FOMOing into this like crazy. Did the SEC came out and say one word that they were contemplating dropping a lawsuit, or even hinting that there was a major investigation going on with Ripple that could have led to it? Not on your life. They said nothing. Then once the snapshot was all taken care of, Jay Clayton, he's leaving the SEC on the very last day, right? He comes out December 22nd of 2020, and he drops, bang, this lawsuit on Ripple right at that moment. Then poof, he is gone. Well, come on. Is the SEC seriously saying, oh, that was a protection? No. If any harm has been done, it's been harm caused by the SEC by just decimating XRP in the market. Because what happened after that? XRP drops from 60 some cents all the way down to 17.48 cents. Now, think of this. Even with a freshly minted SEC lawsuit on it, being delisted from practically every U.S. exchange, save Uphold, XRP still did, within 4 months of that action, a 1,200% return. That is truly phenomenal. And another thing to think about is this. In market cap for XRP, from day one, back in 2013 till now, never, not once has it ever left the top 10 for market cap in this entire digital asset space. And that includes having this whole phony baloney lawsuit being put on them and trying to crush and intimidate them, because, hey, they were going after Chris Larson and Brad Garlinghouse for hundreds of millions personally, weren't they? Now what happened? Well, we know. You know, the SEC loses the case where Judge Annalisa Torres says, hey, no. XRP in and of itself is not a security. Then all the fuzzers come out. Well, for sure, the SEC is going to appeal. They're going to win this appeal. The SEC files their interlocutory appeal. What happens? Gets dismissed out of hand. Boom. Next thing you know, they're dropping the lawsuit against Chris Larson, Brad Garlinghouse. Hundreds of millions of dollars of potential recovery on the line should they have prosecuted those lawsuits. Why did they drop them? Because they had zero evidence whatsoever. XRP has never, listen, Ripple was in there all that time for 8 years, going in, talking to the SEC all the time, open books, the whole bit, on and on and on. This is nothing but a dog and pony show as far as I'm concerned. And at the end of the day, I absolutely believe that Ripple, of course, as an organization, but XRP in and of itself is going to be that phoenix that rises from the ashes. At least, hey, that's my 2 cents.
There's no question. There's no question. That's why we need to go to NESARA and GESARA. That's why we need to get rid of illegal agencies. And they are illegal because I'm telling you.
Well, they're certainly not operating with a faithful allegiance to the law. And even the court called them on that.
Yeah. If they were to pay, let's say, a $200 million fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's say the cost of doing business with all the clerical people that work at the SEC, that illegal enterprise, and the renting of the building and all of that. They do not share that money with Congress, which Congress is also illegal. I mean, look, the whole government is a big sham. Okay. It's a fact. Okay. So we need to go to a flat tax. NESARA, GESARA makes sense. Donald Trump has been caught on videotape saying it hundreds of times during his legitimate presidency. Okay. That what happened in 2020, that which we're not allowed to mention here. Okay. You guys know, you've read between the lines. So, you know, we need to go to a flat tax. How many times has Donald Trump said, we need a level monetary playing field? What do you think he means by that?
Right. Well,
B
being
means
a,
a
yeah,
get rid of government,
yeah,
95%. We don't need to be babysitted, number one. Number two,
right.
let's go to a flat tax. Let's get rid of the
Mhm.
property tax, the income tax, and the
Mhm.
capital gains tax. But a
Mhm.
flat
Mhm.
tax that no one, I don't care who you are, you could be
Mhm.
the Pope.
Mhm.
Okay. You could be the biggest religious leader in the world. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter if there's a 17% tax and the
Mhm.
Pope goes in to buys a taxable item. Yes, even the Pope cannot get away from it.
Yeah, no, I've heard, because of course my background spent 25 years in the federal government of Canada.
Yeah.
Look, I've even seen and read the legislation, because that's part of what I did is interpreting legislation. I can tell you right now, things are changing. They are going to change big. Now, the deal is this when it comes to your tax system, interestingly enough, and this is absolutely wild. We are, of course, in the United States and Canada and other countries around the world, what's called a self assessing system. So that's
Mm-hmm.
where you report income to your government. And based on that, you have the level tiers like so much, like maybe between 10,000 and this amount is going to be at this tax rate and this and this and this and all this tier. Well, of course, a lot of people said, well, hey, look, that doesn't seem to be a fair system when you consider, if you've got these write-offs over here, this guy's earning income through his LLCs and this and the amount of stuff that you can actually, some people can write off and other people can't. There have been major, major financial organizations that have paid less tax than your average school teacher has. And so, of course, it sounds like it's totally outrageous. And the idea is a lot of times the enforcement for a lot of tax authorities, they go after the lowest hanging fruit. They go after the W-2 earner. They go after the guy that, maybe he didn't have enough money deducted when he cashed out a little bit of his, 401k or his, in Canada, they call them RRSPs or whatever, and that kind. And so he's stuck with, a tax bill at the end of the year that he was not expecting. Well, he doesn't pay it up in time, doesn't make a decent or a qualified arrangement with them. Well, what do? They go in their bank account and they just haul the money out. They garnish him just like that. There's no day in court kind of thing. And of course, I understand how that can infuriate people because they just don't feel there's any way to properly redress their grievances. So, of course, a flat tax has been a proposal that has been out there for a very, very long time. But you're absolutely right. We will have to have some kind of a regulatory framework change in a big, big way so that, you would get some kind of a level playing field like that, where you do have just a straight flat tax, whether it's 12%, 14, whatever it is. There's economists out there that could figure out what that should be and whatever. I do think it should be age limited though, because I hate the idea that when I give my little grandkids, a $5 bill to go to the store to buy some gummy bears or whatever, that little, 7 or 8-year-old kid's having to pay tax.
That's crazy.
It is
Yeah, that's great.
crazy.
That's why the system doesn't work.
Sales
Why do
tax.
people like Jeff
Yeah.
Bezos pay less taxes than me and
Yeah,
you?
I hate sales tax in this capacity. And look, I understand how it all works because we had the goods and services tax out there, federal tax in Canada. But the reason I hate sales tax is this: look, they tax you on what you earn, right? Now
Right.
they're turning around and taxing you on what you spend. I mean,
Yep.
that's a form of tax on tax. And I've
Yep.
always kind of thought this is absolutely obscene. But of course, how many states have sales tax?
Well, if you're a
And on and on and on.
if you're a corporation, as a corporation, you have to pay an income tax, correct?
Yep, you would. Yep.
Okay.
Because you're a legal
So then
entity and you're earning income. Yep.
so because that money's already been taxed once, but the government likes to double and triple and quadruple dip on everything
Right.
possible. You sell me your car, you sell me
Mhm.
a new
Yes.
car.
Oh, I know.
You
That
are the
one's
first guy,
obscene.
right?
That
I
and
buy
you
the
know what?
car.
Yeah, that goes on
I
for
have to
him.
pay. You just paid a
Yes.
tax to the car dealership.
Dealer. Yep, yep,
And
yep.
now you're selling me the car. They want
You're
another tax. I sell the
yeah,
car to somebody else. They want another
I
tax.
know it's obscene. And until that thing ends up in the junkyard and the guy that goes and buys the scrap metal and sells it for a bit of a profit, he pays tax on that.
Exactly.
When you really think about it, it is absolutely insane to be honest. Because, and it's not that, hey, look, we all realize there's infrastructure that needs to be out there. And I totally agree. Having been in the tax department all these years, of course, I agree. There has to be some level of taxation because otherwise you're just not going to have a society at all. Right.
Absolutely.
But the thing is this, it's become so overburdensome that you've got two people out there, sometimes both of them working three jobs. And the reason I'll say this is Judy and I both had a full-time job, but you know what? We also had to run a janitorial business. on top of that job in the evenings after we did work, just so we could make it. So you got
Yeah.
two parents out there probably working 3 jobs combined, right? And they're still not making enough so that they could absolutely, have that house, take those holidays, and without going into debt to do it. Without going into
Yeah.
debt to do it. I mean, the thing is this, way back when,
Mhm.
you didn't have to have, you could probably, a house might have cost you, I think somebody was figuring it out at one time that the average price of a house would be like just a little over a year's wages, something like that. In that capacity, like, how much you would make, maybe a house costs you $6,000, and way back when you were making like 3,500 a year. So within 2 years, you would have earned enough, for a house, something like that. We're going way back. Well, nowadays, look, the average price of a house is what? Half a million to over $1 million, depending on where you live, which municipality you live in. And most folks are making like probably 50, 40 to 60,000, most people, individual workers. So you're having to work more than 10 years, and that's with no tax deductions, before you have earned enough that would buy a house. So then in that capacity, they're talking about people looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 100-year mortgages are what they're talking about now. No, so when let's say, imagine you get into this system and you're having to trudge along with that. And as a parent, you grow up, you raise your kids, and you pass away. Now you've left your kids, and they'll be, oh, wow, I really got blessed from my parents. They left me a 30-year mortgage, don't you know? Because everyone else is having to deal with a 100-year. That is just obscene. That is not the American dream. That's the American nightmare. That's what that is.
Well,
And
listen,
that's what they're doing.
yeah, I just had the pleasure to recently, as I think it's back as far as maybe 2 weeks ago,
All
to
right.
interview Joe Bannister and Dr. Sherry Peel Jackson in one sitting.
Okay.
I interviewed Dr. Sherry Peel Jackson. That interview got over 40,000 views,
Wow. Nice.
right?
Nice.
On Rumble,
On
where I
Rumble,
got
which is
on
really
Rumble,
tough.
which, right?
Really
And
tough.
Rumble
Yeah.
just got bought out by who? 80%.
Hmm.
BlackRock.
Oh, did they really? Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Boy, they
My
got their
my
thumbs in
numbers,
everybody's pie.
I was stuck in the mud. I had to send them a really nice email, say, hey, you guys are doing a great job, but I think your software might. I didn't say, hey, you guys are communists. You
Yeah,
guys
yeah,
are,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course,
right? I
yeah.
didn't take that approach. I said, hey, you guys are
No.
doing a great job, but I think, something's wrong because my numbers haven't been going. I says, I went from 27,300 to 27,200, and I've been stuck there for months and months, even though I put out
Okay.
great content. I
Yeah,
said,
okay.
maybe can you look into it, see if your software is broken? Sure enough, they unblocked me. I just went to 27,400. Okay.
Wow,
I'm
okay.
hoping to go to 27,500 soon.
Yeah, oh
But
yeah,
anyway,
oh yeah.
long story short,
Yep.
Joe Bannister, okay, and Cherry Peel Jackson, these are the guys that, David, they would knock your door off your hinges at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you'll be staring down the barrel of a 45 caliber, okay?
Wow.
And they're IRS agents with badges as well.
Okay, okay, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But the
Mhm.
IRS, do you know where the IRS was registered? Do you know where where they're from?
The Internal Revenue Service, where they're
Yes.
actually, well, they have
Yes.
offices all over the country, but
I understand.
yeah,
But where
okay.
are they registered as an illegal corporation? Do you know?
I do not.
How
No.
about Puerto Rico?
No, I did not. And how do we know that? Like, where's that
That's a
information
fact.
come
That's
from?
a
Oh,
fact. You can go on
okay.
the internet right now
Okay,
and
okay.
look up that the IRS was registered in Puerto Rico 1948, whatever year it was. Okay.
Okay,
And
okay.
they are an organization
Which is
that
a
was given.
territory of the US, right? Puerto
Yeah,
Rico, right? Okay,
right.
US territory. Okay, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So what happened was they go and collecting all these illegal taxes from everybody because you're not supposed to be, the wages of people are not supposed to be taxable. Fact.
Mm.
Okay.
Well, income tax was supposed to be a temporary measure, but now I guess the act has made it so that it's, yeah.
Right. So what happened was that money was supposed to go to fund what? World War II.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. World War II was over. They said, don't worry about it. We're going to stop it. But they got so used to that gravy train, they never
Mm-hmm.
stopped it. But the reality is all, I didn't say
Mm-hmm.
some, I said
Mm-hmm.
all, every single penny that the American people are paying to the IRS is going where?
Well, it's going back to the Federal Reserve, I imagine.
Nope, it's not. It's going, every single penny is going to the Vatican and the monarchy in the United Kingdom. That's a fact.
Hmm.
Not one red cent of the American people's tax wages are going to build their bridges, schools, roads, none of it. That's a fact too. You can look it up.
Well, yeah, I've never seen that. I've never heard that one before. That
Well,
it was going to
listen,
the Vatican. Not,
sometimes you can learn something even from a pizza guy.
hey, there you go. Well, hey, no,
Uh,
but I agree that there has to be, like I said, I agree that there has to be a level of taxation in order for a basic infrastructure to run, like for us to have our roads and this and this and that. But it doesn't have to be so cumbersome on the people that the average person is sweating working their heart out and not seeing any kind of traction. And on top of that, when you come out with acts like the Inflation Reduction Act, what an absolute joke. Right in there, they have trillions of dollars of spending designated. And of course, the whole idea there is to destroy the purchasing power of the dollars in your pocket. That in and of itself is a form of taxation because
yeah.
the state can inflate its debt away. Can you and I inflate our debt away? Not on your life. If we did one thing like what they're doing with the double books and all that kind of stuff, they'd lock us up and throw away the key.
Where's the money? The money's being printed by
Well, it's
the
being
Federal
issued.
Reserve.
They don't have to, I mean, I know we like to say print it, but of course, obviously, in terms of
Digital. It's all digital.
physical cash amounts for maybe 5% of what's on deposit in all the banks,
Right.
right?
If you were to go to
yeah.
the bank right now, you were approved for a $250,000 loan. They
Oh,
would
you're
put
not
a
walking
quarter
out with
million
250
dollar digits
cash.
in the
Yes,
they
yes,
would put
yes.
the digits in the computer. Now you owe somebody $250,000, right?
Beyond that, you can even ask your bankers this. The people you think when you apply to your bank, let's say you're banking with Chase or whatever, you're banking with a big bank and you're saying, "Oh yeah, I want to apply for their credit card." And you're applying for the credit card and let's say they approve you, they give you a credit card. Let's say they give you a $10,000 limit or whatever. Do you know who approves that? The Federal Reserve approves that, not the bank. And by the way, if you don't use that credit card that often, right? The Federal Reserve can come back and say, "Hey, pull that credit line from them." Absolutely, 100%. And think of this, every wire transfer that goes from one bank to another bank in this country. So let's say it's going from Wells Fargo, to, I don't know, Capital One or wherever. It goes through the Federal Reserve. We all know that.
Yeah.
Every
It's a,
dollar. And so look, the reality is it's the beating heart of what's really going down when it comes to that. And all of this resolves. Look, it's the whole, I like to say it like this, the worldly golden rule. He who holds the gold makes the rules. Well, who do you think that is right now? Well, in the United States, it's the Federal Reserve that's doing all this stuff, and that's who they all answer to. Bingo, 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 bingo. That is exactly the way it is. And the name of the game is to destroy what this system represents now because they are moving us into a new one. That is a fact, Jack. You can look that up. I mean, everyone can see that that's what it is. And I'm not just saying that. I mean, there is legislative amendment. There are legislative documents that demonstrate that. Jerome Powell himself came out and talked about the central bank digital currency that the US is absolutely going to employ and the benefits of that. And on and on. We are headed that way. And when you think about that, think about this too, Mel, decentralized identity, right? These governments around the world that want to control, the movement of people, the way in which they, do things, the information they all have this in mind. And a digital identity is coming, whether you like it or you don't like it. That is what they're going to try to, throw out there. And
well, that's what they're going to
with that,
try. The key word being
yes,
try.
they're gonna
The word
and they
try.
want to attach your monetary instruments to that. Now,
I don't
obviously,
think, if
there's
that's true,
it
then we
is.
go into the social credit score of a China regime,
I
and
don't know if it'll be like that, but yeah, I
I
hear
don't
you.
see that happening in the United States, and I don't really concur with that simply because we have D's here, and this is what
Oh, yeah, that's
equalizes
right.
the
Yes.
balance.
Well, you would
These,
think, yep. But the
right?
deal is this, when you think about that in this capacity, remember the military construct in this country. Hey, who are they there to, what policies are they there to really protect? Do you think I know they swear allegiance to the Constitution, but let's be honest, it's the powers that be. The ones. Now, the deal is this in this capacity, when I think about this kind of thing, and I do think about it in an eschatological way, in terms of like, a biblical way of where things are unfolding. Now, when I used to work the underground economy, and I'll throw this out there, I remember thinking there's always an underground economy. How in the world are they going to make it so that rich and small, or great and small, poor and rich, and all that can't buy or sell unless they acquiesce to this, system? But now I'll tell you what, boy, does it look like they can do it now if they come out with this whole CBDC thing, because they can turn the money on or off at will. There has to be an alternative way of transacting. Now, what is a monetary instrument, right? Hey, store of value, unit of account, medium of exchange. Does XRP fulfill that? You better believe it does. Store of value, absolutely for sure. A unit of account, million drops to 1 XRP. Unit of exchange. There are people right now getting paid their salaries inside the United States in XRP. And I believe XRP may be a method where we could transact outside of the whole CBDC system. That's what I believe. Now, I think
that's what the Mexican standoff is all about, dude.
I think you're right. I think you're right. I think there is definitely purpose behind it beyond just whether XRP is a security.
Think about it
Yeah.
logically. Think about it logically. Just if, okay, if the central bank digital currency had a very legitimate spot on the blockchain, a functional spot, this turkey would have been out of the oven a long time ago.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But because if it's not, and because
they're
know
not
that
ready
you and
for
I,
it. They're not ready.
You and I can transact peer to peer.
Yeah.
Okay. Listen, I was invited to a closed meeting with General Flynn.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. There was a lot of very prominent podcasters in the room by invitation only. I don't think I will be invited back.
Okay.
Because that was the conversation at hand. We're going to be walking down the street. We're going to have a social credit score. And they did the fatal mistake of allowing us to ask questions. Well, guess who was the second runner-up for questions?
I was at XRP Vegas, and I heard you asking questions.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So, and I said, with all due respect, gentlemen, you don't know what the F you're talking about in those words with a tone of voice. And I says, with all due respect, I don't mean to disrespect you guys. I love what you guys are doing. But if that was to happen, we'd all be walking down the street with a social credit score. And I explained a little bit about that. And I told them that about the lawsuit and the Mexican standoff and the manipulation of the market. And there was a gold and silver guy on stage. And I said, you know something about manipulation, don't you? And he said, yeah, I do. Because he's a gold and silver guy, right? Just like Niles Franklin.
Of course he does.
Right? Yeah. So anyway, I said, General, I said, don't you get the fact that if I wanted to buy your house, your car, your jet ski, your boat, whatever, I could pay you peer to peer. I could pay you directly to your wallet. You send me your receiving address key. I send you a little small amount. You read off that amount to make sure I got the right wallet address. Boom. It's the right wallet address.
Yeah, I said, totally. Right.
He said to me, young man, you are talking about some acronyms I'm not aware of. I never heard about peer to peer. This is General Flynn.
Yeah, no, I know. That's wild, isn't it? That's wild.
Nice guy. But man, don't get up in front of the stage and tell people that the sky is falling and you don't understand what peer to peer is, because that's what we're having a fight over is the peer to peer.
It amazes me and never ceases to amaze me just how few people genuinely understand the economy that we are moving into globally. And I say that because it reminds me of back in the day. And I say this on my channel quite a bit because these are the events that really kind of resonate. Well, back in the day when the computers were coming out, I mean, most people thought they were toys, really. And yet the powers that be had, they knew, hey, this is going to revolutionize the way the wide world works, right? And so most people, they did not touch it because they were flooded with it. Now, remember, the early days of the internet. Now, the internet came out of DARPA. Let's be honest. All that packet switching and stuff like that came out of, the military construct. They brought, and then they bring in the World Wide Web and on and on and on. With certainly an understanding of how it's going to affect the way the world worked. Now, think of this, Mel. Before the internet in the late 80s, mid 80s to the early 90s, the world could click along really okay. If we suffered even a 3-day blackout, global blackout of the internet, the entire global economy would collapse on its face into the tune of trillions upon trillions, if not quadrillions. Just a 3-day blackout. And that's how dependent we have become on the internet. But back when the internet was coming out, well, it was a big joke. Hey, what's an email and all this kind of nonsense? You don't think the powers that be knew what that was? So we fast forward to a big crash, 2008, 2009. What's introduced in 2008 or 2009 into that? Well, hey, Bitcoin white paper came out. But what's interesting about Bitcoin's white paper is the technology that was behind the distributed ledger technology. It was SHA-256, developed, by the way, by the NSA, you know? And the whole idea of that, which I believe is a big smokescreen, in that capacity, you got certain people that worked on that that are working on the XRP ledger, yeah? And what's going on there. And we can see now how many people have been fudded out of dipping their toes into this digital asset space because, oh, it's so nefarious. Oh, it's so risky. And yet this digital asset space is probably going to swallow the internet and every other system whole around the wide world. I mean, you literally are now seeing the tokenization of gold. And when you think of our monetary, if you think of our securities, now Larry Fink, BlackRock, CEO, BlackRock, comes out, he gets on stage, he says, listen, the next evolution of these markets, the tokenization of securities, not the securitization of tokens. No, 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 no. The tokenization of securities. When he said that, global markets were worth about $89.2 trillion when he said that.
Right.
Not too long after, the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, which transacts trillions of dollars of trade volume a day in terms of settlement, right? And all the major trading houses have a taste in it. Well, in 2020, they went online. They made a deal with R3 Corda. R3 Corda utilizes XDC and XRP for instant settlement. Boom. Now you're talking about the monetary instrument being totally digitized in either a central bank digital currency or some form thereof. Think about it. If the monetary instrument, right, is going to be digital, if the clearinghouse that clears the transactions is digital, then why, oh, why would not the securities themselves be digital and tokenized? We're talking about the tokenization of everything, and not only real world assets, you and I. Our history, our health, our education, everything is going to be tokenized. That's a fact, Jack. Well, when we enter into that space, there's only going to be a few avenues of circumventing the level of control. And, the whole kind of idea in that capacity is this: absolute power corrupts absolutely, doesn't it? In every situation, have we ever seen that? Where absolute power did not corrupt absolutely? It's going to take something supernatural to avoid that kind of system. Truly. It really will.
God's going to come back.
Yeah.
No, and we're going to create, we're going to create NESARA, GESARA. We're going to create heaven on earth right here with NESARA and GESARA. And we have to have the right leadership in place. We're not going to, you and I are not going to become billionaires under the Joe Biden regime,
not
David.
No way, no way.
It's not going to happen.
No,
or Kamala Harris.
No, right. Yeah.
It's not going to happen. We have to wait for a certain individual to get back. We know that.
Because the whole, there's various, and a lot of people, I mean, look, there are people in this world that are genuinely above the law.
Yes.
Right now. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. It seems like
they're not above God.
They're not above God's law. That's right. They will face a maker one day. I 100% agree. Look, Jesus said, in this world, you will have trouble, but don't be overcome because I've overcome the world. So, that's kind of like, look, and that's kind of how I look at it is, okay, as I move through, this life, and I'm doing it with intention. Hey, many of the plans of a man's heart is the Lord's purpose that prevails. I genuinely believe that. I do not believe that all these events are just happening by happenstance. No way, no how. There's an absolute design going on. That's what I genuinely believe. And I believe that we're following exactly the timeline that we were meant to be following. I genuinely believe that too. And so in this capacity, for me, it's about, this is where you and I, and, the Bible says, as iron sharpens iron, so a man sharpens a man, right? Yes. We have got to be out there. This is why these summits, like the Quantum Summit, is so vitally important, because you want to get out there and you want somebody, hey, challenge my critical thinking, cause me to think in ways that I have not yet thought before, introduce me to understanding and ideas, allow me to get a glimpse of what's going on behind the curtain so that I can know where can I navigate in this life? This whole system, and I was talking about my coffee chat today, where you go, you grow up, you go to school, you get an education. Hey, you go to college, get $100,000 debt. You get out of there. Now you take on, you get a job, you get married, you have your kids, you get you get a big fat mortgage, you stay into the debt cycle until whatever, and then you retire, get a little bit of a meager pitch, and hopefully your house is paid off by then. Have a few vacations at the end of your life, and then poof, you're gone. Come on, that is not what you and I were designed for, man. Not on your
Absolutely.
life.
Listen,
No way.
I'm the guy that took the picture in the sky. You heard that story, I'm sure, right?
I
I
believe
took a
I did. Yeah.
picture in the sky. Look, God does not choose perfect men because I am the furthest thing from perfection. I
Hey.
can absolutely assure you of
Yeah.
this.
Likewise, I
Okay.
understand. Yeah.
We're not perfect,
No,
but
we're
we are
not.
perfect for the job that He has chosen us for.
Yeah, that's right. And by hey, if it's God's will, it's God's bill. I like to say it's kind of like, you don't give a soldier all of his military gear until he's on the battlefield,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean,
But that's and
and
look,
me, out of all
Peter.
people,
Yeah,
an atheist for years, because after
yeah,
35 years of doing this, and the guy doesn't come down from the sky and nothing's getting done and everything is in shambles, you start to question everything and
you
you start to
do.
have doubts
Yeah,
and you
right.
start to go backwards and you start to lose your faith and you start to do a lot of things you normally, and all of a sudden I
Yeah,
take a picture and there is a face. It's exactly the face that I took a picture of us. It's
yeah,
the shroud of God. If you look
yeah.
up the shroud of God on Google and you put it next to the
Mm,
picture that I've
yeah,
taken of in Costa Rica while I was on one of my favorite beaches. It
yeah.
is the same identical picture next
Wow.
to an XRP logo.
Wow, isn't that something? Wow. Wow. Well, I do believe God speaks. God speaks like that. There's things that happen in my own life, and I can attest that absolutely I do believe, like, hey, like we're made on purpose, but we're also made for a purpose, right?
Yes.
And there's an assignment on our life. I genuinely do believe that. Now, God loves us. The Bible says he loves us with an everlasting love. And it says in his word, it's his will to prosper us, not to harm us, but to give us a future and a hope. And it says, if we draw near to him, he draws near to us. Look, if we really want to understand what's really going on, we want to be as close to our maker, in my estimation, as we possibly can. Now, that is not religion. That is not religion. That is about understanding how you were knit together, how your body functions. Look, what you're talking about, those vibrations, how you can get true health. What about how you think? Hey, there's a Bible verse that says, gird up the loins of your mind. We are being polluted day and night with all kinds of stuff coming out of the fifth estate that is just absolute baloney
Mind blowing.
and causing us to believe things that are
Yeah.
total lies to
Yeah.
keep us from the knowledge of the truth, which would set you free. Right.
Yes.
And so that's where we have to get to a place. And, for instance, when they talk about, taking humanity to a higher, well, I think that we already have it resonant within us. What it's talking about is literally being broken free from the shackles of this kind of worldly mindset and thinking. And the only way I know for certain to get there is to absolutely, allow the maker, the one who knit you together, to move into that situation. Now, a lot of people say, oh, no, that's just hogwash. That's just, pot. Look, I'll tell you what, I do not believe it because it's written down in some book. I believe it because I've absolutely experienced it in ways that I cannot even, totally articulate to the best of my ability. But I can tell people about it. Now I can share people my faith. I can't give it to them, right? I mean,
Exactly.
there's a really interesting little scripture that says, taste and see that God is good, right? Well, if I had an orange, right? Or here, I'll even use this. Here's a drink here. There's an orange drink. Now, is this drink sweet or is it bitter? Well, you say, well, Dave, I'm pretty sure it's probably sweet, but you don't know it until you taste it. Well, hey, the Bible says, taste and see that God is good. You got to experience them for yourself. And I do believe that, we are in a place in history where a lot of mysteries are totally being revealed and unfolded. And, it's like we have glimpses of what's to come. And I definitely believe that this digital asset space and what it represents is certainly an absolute part of that story. It is written into the framework of those chapters right there. And I do believe that because I feel, Judy and I almost fell into this by absolute happenstance. And it's almost like we're spiritually drawn to it. I'll tell you that right now. I've heard that from so many people
Yeah.
too. Some people I've coached, they've literally told me they had a dream in the night, never even heard the word XRP. had a dream in
Yeah.
the night.
Still
And
till today.
and then that came about. So Mal, I'll tell you what, man, I am so looking forward to this conference, and
Yeah,
especially
me
spend
too.
time with you and Amber and
Yeah.
just all the other folks that are going to be there. But
Yeah. Me too.
just as winding things up, I want to give you the floor. What out there do you have like that you want to share with the people? Want to get this right out there and all about the Quantum Summit and everything
Yeah,
that's
the
coming up
Quantum
in
Summit,
June?
like I said, it's about health first, eating organic, growing your
Yeah,
own food.
yeah,
It's about there's a lot of people who have a lot of pieces of the puzzle that are going to be there that we don't even know what those pieces are. And you're going to learn what they are at that event. That's why you want to be there. Okay.
absolutely.
And that not only the fact that the energy is going to allow your body to heal the body, but I can tell you emphatically the reason why, for example, and I think we'll close it out with this.
Yes, go ahead.
Ian Farrar happens to be a big fan of yours. He's probably going to give you a big kiss on the forehead or something when he sees you. Okay. He
Okay.
happens to be my food guru. Now, why
All
in the
right.
world a pizza guy who used to eat everything under the rainbow need a food guru in a new world odor? I'll tell you why. Because even though I believe that medical procedure, right, that came down with that C thing, the
Yeah.
number 19, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. When that thing didn't work, is even though I believe wholeheartedly, and I don't know if you do, but I believe wholeheartedly 100 million people are gone.
A lot are.
Conservatively, I
Yeah.
have the videos
Yeah.
that came in my Telegram group
Yeah.
that basically there were a video of a guy from one funeral parlor calling another guy from another funeral parlor saying, "Hey, I got too many bodies. Can you take off some?" And they're all
Isn't that
between the ages of
obscene?
18 and 34. Houston, we got a problem.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, no kidding.
Right? And he
Mhm.
says, I was going to call you and tell you the same thing because he's got too
Wow.
many bodies. So I'm
Wow.
telling you,
Wow. Wow.
100 million are gone.
Wow. Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
And even though that's a big number, it's much bigger than World War I, World War II, the
Mm.
Korean War, Vietnam, all
Yep.
of it.
Yep.
Okay. Even
Yeah.
though it's bigger than all of that combined,
Mm.
for them, it's not working fast enough. So
Mm-hmm.
they have accelerated by doing what? Messing with your food supply. And I don't know about you, but if they
Yeah.
lie to you straight on television,
Yeah.
what's to stop them from lying to you what's on the label? Do
Yeah.
you
Well,
even
that's true.
understand the label with all these crazy words?
Yeah. There's some stuff most people
The
don't
whole thing
understand.
is
Like,
there to bamboozle you, right?
yeah,
So
like,
if
yeah,
I have
there's
a
just, yeah,
company like Ian Farrar's company, that
yeah.
is a company that I know for absolute certainty
Yeah, I'm
is
looking on the
never going to
back of this
sell.
bottle here, and I'm like, what's in that?
Exactly. If I know there's a company out there, for example, like Ian Farrar's company, that's never going to sell out to the New World Order for a guy that's as busy as I am,
Right.
that doesn't have time to go to college and study these fancy words that I don't know what the hell this means, then I go to Ian Farrar and I say, hey, I just ordered 2 more bags of each of one of these things that I use. I said, pull the trigger, boom. See, I could pull the trigger and not have to worry about having to read and understand the label and trying to figure out, is this company a foe or are they a friend?
Well,
Are they
like they
trying to
say,
poison me? Or
yeah,
are they not trying to? I want to go with a company that I know
yeah,
is a sure shot because Ian's been
right.
working for the company for 25 years.
That's fantastic. Yeah. No, I
Right.
mean, we are what we eat. I mean, that is true. Absolutely. 100%.
So God put that company there for a reason. Yes, it
Yeah.
costs maybe $60 more per month on
But
my
you know
food
what?
bill.
I would rather Judy and I, we were being very conscientious about what we eat right now. And especially as preppers, because of course we want food that's going to last and be healthy and stuff like that. And absolutely, we're thinking, and you know what? I mean, when you're young, hey, you stuff yourself with all kinds of stuff. I imagine I don't know how many pizzas you ate, but I ate lots.
I ate a bunch.
Yeah, I ate lots. But I didn't pay any Bitcoin for my pizzas, but
Yeah, that's
but
for
I ate
sure.
lots. But now, of course, every little ache and pain that you have when you're a kid comes back to haunt you when you get to be in your 50s and 60s. And at that point, you're like, okay, hey, I have to start thinking about what I'm putting in here, if I'm going to enjoy the rest of the amount of time God's going to give me as I walk this earth. That's for sure.
But do I make a point? Life has
You
gotten
do.
so complicated, right?
Very
We have a
unbelievably.
new world order that's trying to wipe us all
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They
It's
haven't been able to
different.
succeed to the level that they wanted to succeed
Right.
with this medical procedure that a lot of us didn't take, thank
No,
God.
yep,
But
yep.
still, it was devastating in the
Mhm.
numbers of people who are no longer here. I'll tell you what, let's leave it with this.
Okay, you go ahead.
I bet you anything you want,
Mm.
Dave, that we would have gotten the accurate number
Mhm.
if Donald Trump would have came out and said, Don't do it. It's poison.
Mm-hmm.
If he would have said that, you know what they would have done? The media
Mm-hmm.
would have spun that thing and said,
Oh
"Ha,
yeah.
you see, they took the, let's say, for example, they took the medical procedure. They're
Yeah.
gone because of the medical procedure. You know, you understand what I mean by gone,
Yeah.
right?
I
Dirt
know.
nap,
Oh yeah. I know what you mean.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, they're
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah. That's right.
A
They're
dead
gone.
man and dead woman can't do what? They can't speak and they can't defend themselves. And they
Yeah.
would pile up those bodies on whose doorstep?
Oh yeah.
Donald J. Trump. And you would have
Yeah.
had
Oh
an
yeah.
accurate body count.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That one. Yeah. They would have got that
Right.
number right.
But what happened was Donald Trump went in. I
Mm-hmm.
believe this, and I don't have any proof of this. This is
Okay.
just the pizza man speculating, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump went in with what? Operation Warp Speed.
Mm-hmm.
What is Operation Warp Speed? I believe that he flooded the market with placebos.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, are you still playing Russian roulette? Yes, you betcha.
Mm-hmm.
But,
yeah.
but
Mm-hmm.
the chances of you getting the real one, very difficult. Okay, because they literally, when I say flooded the market, I mean the billions. Because I've talked to a lot of people, you know, remember the forks sticking to their foreheads and the magnets sticking to their
Yeah,
arms?
I do. I
Because,
remember that.
remember those
And
videos?
then they would put some what green light over their arms, and you could literally see the tracers in their
Bingo.
skin. It was like wild,
Exactly.
wild.
So
Yeah.
when I used to go to the parties and the fork didn't stick and the magnet didn't stick, and I said to them, "Did you get a reaction?" They said, "None, zero." Good.
Mm-hmm.
Chances are you probably got a placebo or a little sugar water, which means you're probably sweeter than before.
Hey, that's a nice way to think about it. But
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
that's
That
what
is so
Donald,
cool.
see, Donald Trump could have walked away from this whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Worth billions of dollars. Why did the army with these guys here, right, go and see him?
Right, right,
Why?
right. Yeah.
Because they know he could not have been bought.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, this is a man that's got everything any man would ever want. He could have very easily walked away, David, and bought an island in the middle of the Pacific somewhere.
Yeah, no, he had the money to do it. No,
right?
and he stuck around.
And he could have said, you know what, screw you guys. You guys didn't pay attention. Now you deal with it. But because he's got kids, because he's got grandkids, those grandkids are going to have grandkids at some point as down the road as well. Right. And he knows that if somebody doesn't step up, if that guy here doesn't step up and fixes this, and we get behind him, it's over. You may as well put your head between your legs and kiss your hemorrhoids goodbye.
Yeah, he said if he loses this election, this next election, then this country's done. That he himself had just said that. So
there's not going to be an election.
Mel, I just, I value you so much. It's been just
there's not going to be an election, Dave.
Yeah, that's what they say. It's a
there cannot be an election. Right? Yeah, I see you opened up another small can of worms, and then we'll leave it with this.
Well, we'll have to. Well, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
There cannot be an election, because if there's an election, then we legitimize 2020. That means we just became a banana republic official on paper.
Right. Yeah. No, I understand. I mean, I know a lot of people, like even a guy I watch from time to time, Gregory Mannarino, whom I really like. And
I love Gregory Mannarino.
And he came out and said, "Look, we all know it's a selection.
Of course,
it's not an election." So.
No.
Well, Mel,
listen, hey, my friend George Green got recruited back in the 70s to be the finance chairman to the next president of the United States, a guy that used to grow peanuts.
Oh yes, I remember Jimmy
Carter. There's only one problem.
Yeah.
Jimmy Carter didn't know he was even running, never mind winning.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the short and skinny of it.
Isn't that something else?
Stick that in your pipe and smoke it.
Yeah, that's wild. That is truly wild. Well, man, I tell you, I want to say thank you so much. It has been great, and giving us the lowdown of what's coming up. And like I say, guys, get out there. Hey, go to subscribe to Mel's channel.
The links will be down below.
Yes, they're going to be right down below in there. You go subscribe. Also, check out Quantum Summit, June 8th, June 9th, 2024, Cape Canaveral, Florida, one of the most beautiful spots in the wide world. And guys, I'll tell you what, cannot wait for you to be there. And Mel, go ahead.
A lot of people are coming early, because that time of the year, the water in the ocean's like 82, 83, 84 degrees.
Amazing.
And Versan is coming down early. He wants to hang out with the pizza guy on the beach. Okay?
There you go. So, yeah, awesome. That's fantastic. Awesome. Well, Mel, thanks again so much.
Awesome, brother. Thank you.
And we'll touch base later on. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.